So you've left and gone to Big Bear.
I have. My wife's family goes up here. They're going to be up here for a week. So I'm watching these guys working on this house next door to the cabin we have. Yeah. Big, beautiful house in the lake. And they've got this truss they're trying to get to, and it's literally 3 stories up on top of that. So it's like 4 stories in the air.
There's a ladder on top of the lift.
They've got a lift. They've got this little lift, like a little 4-wheel lift. They've got it fully extended. It doesn't get to the top. So they just brought like a 16-foot ladder on top of the lift, and it's just leaning against the house. And I'm just looking at this going, what? Like, this only ends one way. Like, there's no way this ends optimally. And then I watch the guy climb up the thing, and he's got one of these handheld framing nailers, you know, that like shoots a 3.5-inch nail.
What's going to go wrong with that? That should be fine.
I'm going to catch a nail to the face is what's going to happen. It's the only way I see this going down.
All of Big Bear is in jeopardy.
Everybody's out like enjoying the lake, having fun. I'm just sitting here watching this guy, just waiting for the next shoe to fall. It's like, it's going to happen.
Quiet, please.
I'm going to go over to Kinko's and make a sign that says number of days since last OSHA incident.
In 4.
And it's only going to have 2 number cards, 0
3,
and 1. That's it.
2.
Company presents a truly terrible podcast. Welcome to Nonsense Season 3, Episode 32. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm Stittle.
This is our take on the week's business, tech, and entertainment headlines. This time, AI copyright ruling divides industry.
And co-hosts.
Android 16 has a new feature detecting government spy tools.
And the problem is that it just keeps going off constantly as I walk around the city.
The Trump phone no longer promises it's made in America.
Oh, wow. Look, my shock and surprise face right here.
Also, our big story later this week, the silent dominance of the B-2 bomber. It's International Joke Day. I'm going to just say apologies in advance to everyone.
Oh, no. Oh, boy. All right. You go first.
A Roman walks into a bar and holds up 2 fingers and says, 5 beers, please.
Of course, because he's Roman. I get it. I understand.
You do one.
What's the difference between a stoner and a drunk?
I give up what?
A drunk drives through stop signs. A stoner waits for them to turn green. All right, now you go.
What do we want? Low-flying airplane noises. When do we want them? Meow.
Any good joke needs sound effects. What is the difference between a hippo and a Zippo?
One is really heavy and the other's a little lighter.
Oh, you knew that one.
What do you got? Got another one?
2 muffins are in the oven, and one says to the other, "It's getting hot in here." And the other muffin looks over and says, talking muffin.
A classic.
Mm-hmm. Okay, one more. You go.
My 3 favorite things are eating my family and not using commas.
Yes, of course. I like those.
How is your week going, sir?
Well, now that everyone is tuned out, I think we're doing just fine. Good. This show, it brings all sorts of comments up from listeners, even sometimes the public at large. And up until last week, my favorite comment said to me in person was from one of our listeners and one of your friends. I think it was actually at your birthday recently. And she said, "Oh, I love the show, but I don't know what you're talking about. You're not that big." And I just looked at her and I said, "Wow, the word 'that' is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence, isn't it?" Which was, I thought, hysterical.
She thought you were heavier?
Because we make a lot of fat jokes on the show. It's a lot
sure.
It's just it's a constant end of fat jokes. Last week I was meeting with the CEO of a super interesting AI-powered company that's in the finance space. Great guy, super smart, really impressed with what they've built. I had a conversation with him probably 45 minutes or so. Later, we're talking with a small group, and he says, "You've got a really great voice." And I was like, "Oh, thank you." He said, "But it reminds me of someone, and you're not going to like it." And I was like, "Well, okay, now you got to tell us." If you say it's right, you're not going to like, what could this be? And he said, "You sound just like Rush Limbaugh."
Oh, no.
Yeah. I assumed there was like a punchline coming, but no, there wasn't. It was just, that was it.
You sound nothing like Rush.
I was just known as Rush Jr. And I'm going to work on my Oxycontin addiction now. I'm going to try to get that ramped up.
Excellent.
And maybe then I can take over for whatever his legacy was. Anyway, but I enjoyed the "you have a great voice" part, and that was it.
Sure.
Anyway, how about you? How was your week?
I lost another friend this week. I don't want to be the eulogy guy, but this was someone really special.
Oh, no.
I aspire to be a polymath, as I know you do, to dive deeply into learning curves as much as I possibly can every single day. My friend Tucker Carney made me look like a rank amateur, and I say that without an ounce of modesty. I'm not talking about someone who is a jack of all trades, master of none. Tucker had a brain that burned searingly bright, and he relished learning deeply and widely, quickly becoming a master of whatever that incredible brain focused on. To sit in conversation with him was pure joy. He might have said that he was an entrepreneur, a problem solver, and a community builder. I'll add that he was generous. It's not overstatement to say his presence made the world a bigger place, and I'll give you a quick example. Tucker was an ice hockey player, but when his kids played soccer, he learned the game. Not just the rules, which he pretty pretty much knew already, but everything, down to the teams in his area that his kids' teams could play in case a scheduled team couldn't make the engagement. He tracked the level of play of each of the teams so he could match them up perfectly.
Oh, wow.
Soon, other teams discovered his expertise and passed on to people Tucker had never even met that if you had a dispute, this was the guy who could help you resolve it fairly. If your team needed an opponent, this was the guy who could supply it. If that sounds like a quaint little neighborhood thing, let me provide some scale. Within a short time, he was scheduling over 10,000 soccer games a year.
Holy cow.
And this was one tiny corner of his vast life. Tucker, the world got smaller when you left it. The Grim Reaper is picking up his pace as I get older. The passing of people I knew and loved always hurts, and yes, some more than others. This one is going to sting for a very long time. Tucker Carney, 56.
My condolences, Jeff.
Thank you. Let's get to our headlines. Fair use or foul play, AI copyright ruling divides industry. A federal judge ruled AI training on legally obtained copyrighted works is fair use.
Yay.
But using pirated copies isn't.
Yay.
This means Anthropic AI faces a piracy trial with potential massive damages for using illegally acquired books. The legal battle over AI and copyright is far from over, with appeals expected. What do you think?
Well, yeah, far from over. I think it's far from beginning. It's just starting. I wouldn't say it's.
Yeah.
I think this is the preamble of the first chapter.
For sure.
Interested to see if when this piracy trial comes to fruition, how they assess damages on that. Because,
right.
Reading it's one thing. It's sort of like consuming it or how they use it, how other people leveraged it. Like what was their revenue off it? Who knows? That's going to be sticky, but it's not the big problem. The big problem really is thinking about how we ingest these things and how they're allowed to be ingested. So I'm certainly on the side of treating the sort of what I'll call, quote, legal ingestion of these as fair use. Although I do think that's questionable of what is defined as legal. But certainly the illegal copies, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I mean, not under the current copyright sort of regulations. I do think it should be possible. I really do think you should be able to slurp everything up into some form to make a general knowledge brighter, but there should be some mechanism of compensation. We haven't defined that yet. We're so far away from knowing what that looks like.
Sure.
But you have a very different view on this. What's your takeaway?
We have come up with these copyright laws that say basically you own this material for so many years after your passing. And that is the grounds. That is the deal we have made with creators. So to say that you can now put Sarah Silverman's book into an AI and anyone can get the information from it, even though it's just not word for word, is, I think, morally reprehensible.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, that's strong. But anybody can read it, right? This is where it gets interesting to me.
Anyone can buy a book and read it. Absolutely.
Yeah. So where I get sort of wrapped around the axle on this thing is, to me, having the AI read it versus a person, there's very little difference.
Except for the AI is telling everybody what the contents are. Why buy Sarah Silverman's book when you can just have an AI tell you what's in it? That's precisely the problem.
Yeah, but it's not going to read it to me line for line.
You are damaging Sarah Silverman and the time she spent writing that book.
Does this mean all the kids that have been writing book reports all along are all apt for copyright infringement?
No, because I think you're not doing it for the purpose of telling people all of the content of the book or making available all of the content.
Yeah.
You are giving them your opinions about this or that about the book.
I feel like you certainly could have an AI that's more viewed in that light. To my knowledge, none of these are giving you an exact word for word representation.
Right.
But it's where do you draw the line?
That doesn't matter. They're giving you the content.
The gist.
Sarah Silverman is being harmed, is being damaged because she is not making the revenue she could be making because you're getting her information simply from the AI.
Yeah, but this we've been saying this now for 30 years or longer around copyright infringement. Just because I got it from some other source doesn't mean I would have bought it to begin with. And I get that the copyright holder says, well, no, that I'm never going to get that sale now because this other thing regurgitated. It doesn't mean I was ever going to buy it from you to begin with. Like, that's not one-to-one.
Some would, some won't. I mean, you obviously can't say 100% of the people who stole it would have bought it. That's true.
Yeah.
I think you're going to change the way people make books. If this ruling stands, you will change the people that do not sell books and do not sell them under the current copyright law.
Yeah.
They will license their books with a very clear carve-out saying this license does not include allowing
we allow
AI
to use it this way.
Right. You are not allowed to give this to an AI.
Only these ways.
That license will be very, very explicit.
Sure. And are you okay with that?
I'm great with that.
Do you think that's...
License things however you want to. If you want to send Martin Scarelli the latest Wu-Tang album, and he writes a big check for it, part of the deal is he licensed it. He didn't buy it.
Yeah.
The only thing he can do with it is enjoy it himself. If he uses it in any other way, he's breaking the law. I'm fine with that. Let's make that deal. Make that the writing. We thought that's what copyright was. It's not. So I think people will change the way they sell books and movies and all those sorts of things.
I mean, that's how most, not books, getting towards music and movies, that's how most of those are licensed these days, right?
They're still copyrighted.
You have a very narrow.
They're still copyrighted.
But you still have a very no. You're agreeing to a license for it that's very narrow.
Yes.
Right. But
Yes.
I mean I guess I still have some fair use,
but
inclusion under that.
There's no explicit carve out saying you cannot put this into an AI. I'm saying that new license that people will use, that movie owners will use, will say you are not allowed to feed this into an AI. We will pursue you to our full legal remedy when you do.
Sure. And that sounds better for the copyright holder for sure.
Sure.
Is it better for the consumer?
Don't care. They're the people who
No, I didn't say you didn't care, but is it better for the consumer?
Don't care. The copyright holder, the person who or this licensee is the one who created the material. They can license it out however they wish.
Sure. No, I understand. I understand that point.
The Wu-Tang Clan does not have to give the whole world access to their album just because they sold one copy to Martin Scarelli.
Yeah, but I mean, at a certain point, I mean, your own view on companies, you get to a certain size, and you have to think about what's better for all, not just what's better for the company. So why doesn't that apply to content holders too?
For an individual production, say a movie that's $250 million, no, you can absolutely say this is a license. You are not allowed to feed this to an AI. That's a product you've made. I'm not a lawyer, but I presume at that point we have left the realm of copyright law and moved into the realm of contract law.
I understand that.
Your behavior generally as a company now has to comply to laws. You have to be very careful that you are not squeezing other people out of the same business. Yes, there are things that because of your size, you have to be very cognizant of when you become large. But the copyright, the actual how you release your products should still follow the same rules no matter what size you are.
Sure. But I'm stuck on the part where you don't feel that what's in the consumer's best interest is important.
It's important to everyone that we don't change the rules. If Sarah Silverman writes a book under the presumption that the copyright laws last so long and cover these things, it's important that we keep our word.
I wonder how some artists would feel about works of theirs being used in ways they didn't intend, like Dido, for example. I wonder what her views would be on something like that.
I believe she was involved and she was great with it. She appears in the music video. Think about Weird Al Yankovic. Never made a parody song without first getting explicit permission from the artist he was parodying. And he was turned down a few times.
Oh, I wonder what those were.
You can look them up.
That'd be super interesting.
About them. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like we should take some modicum of interest in what's best for the consumer and for civilization at large.
It's always best for everyone, and especially the consumer, when we keep our word. You're going to get a lot fewer things created if you actually can give it away to AI right after it's been made. If there's no time duration, if there's just the ability for AI to slurp up everything, people are going to stop putting up big money for a movie. People are going to stop putting up the time to write a good novel.
And that might be okay. First of all, I don't necessarily agree that that's what's going to happen. But even if it were to happen, you say, oh, well, you're going to drag down the budget of movie production. I'm not sure that that's bad.
It is if you like bigger budget movies, because there's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow.
Sure.
A lot of those people are never going to reach the pot of gold anyway. Because there's now no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, people who might otherwise have made it to the end won't take the time. They'll go off and do other things.
Sure. That might be okay. I don't know. I really don't know the answer to that.
So we'll miss out on a lot of the world's, some wonderful creativity we might have otherwise gotten.
But then why aren't copyrights indefinite? Why don't they just go on forever?
Great question.
My point is that there's an expiry on them. And the reason there's an expiry is because we think it's better somewhere. Somebody thinks it's better for the masses.
And it may be, and that's a deal you make going forward with people who have not yet copyrighted things.
Yeah, sure.
You can't go backwards and pull the rug out from people who believed they were creating something with a term for them to exploit it of X number of years.
Yeah, but also to be fair, nobody did a carve out said you couldn't, when I released my book in 1987, you didn't say an AI couldn't read it. But that doesn't mean that it wasn't not allowed or wasn't they were writing it going, oh, no AI is ever going to read this.
No, but they didn't think something was going to read it that was going to harm them from being able to monetize their work. The AI will absolutely harm them financially. I know it's not one-to-one. Not everyone who was going to take the information from the AI was going to buy it, but a certain percentage would have. They are absolutely being harmed financially.
I don't think you know that to be true. I think we can assume that it's true. I think it's a reasonable assumption, but I don't think we know it to be true.
That's an interesting question. Does it matter when you steal a diamond that you never would have bought the diamond in the first place?
Sure. Yeah.
Android 16 has a new feature detecting government spy tools. Law enforcement uses stingrays to covertly spy on phones, even collecting bystander data. Android 16 with new hardware will finally enable detection of these fake cell towers, notifying users and enhancing privacy. However, current phones lack the necessary hardware for this crucial security feature.
Yeah, that's a bummer. You would really like your phone to be able to do this now.
Yeah, sure. But great, we're going to be able to do it going forward.
Best if you can do it for yesterday's phones, but still better if you can do it for today's and tomorrow's phones, which seems to be where they're headed.
Good for Google. I think this is a great program. Explain what a Stingray is and why we care.
These things are very interesting. Oh, they basically use them, I think, typically in places where there's going to be a lot of folks gathering for some purpose. typically like a protest or something like that. And they'll slap these things, they'll put a couple antennas on them, they're relatively small. And what it does is it spoofs a cell site, right? So it's basically spoofing that it's a cell tower, and your phone, unbeknownst to you, will try to connect to it. And in order for them to get the data that they want, I don't understand all the intricacies of why they do this. They try to downgrade your service. So they basically say, oh, we don't have 5G or 4G LTE.
Right. We have 2G
or 3G. And your phone will try to negotiate just to know if this is an option that it should have. Because at any given time, your phone's typically connected to 3 or more cell towers at any given time. Mm-hmm. So it just wants to know, is this somebody that I should do a dance with? In this process of doing this, you are exposing your IMEI, which is your serial number on your phone, which by itself really has no value, right? Like giving someone your IMEI doesn't expose it. It doesn't give them your name or your social security number. No, it doesn't give anything like that.
But I can get your name from your phone company if I know your IMEI.
That's true. You will probably need a backdoor. Maybe a warrant will probably get you there too. I mean, a warrant would certainly get you there.
Yeah, I think a warrant would get it for you easily.
But there's something that's even, I think, more valuable than that, which is if you know these IMEIs are at multiple sites, right? If you collect a bunch of data in aggregate, and then look, you can see, okay, are there people that are supportive of a given cause, right? Because you'll see these IMEIs in different places.
Sure.
There was, as part of the Snowden leaks years ago, one of the problems, I think it was called the known traveler, sort of the known traveler system, or I forget what they called it, but there was a system that would look for folks that would hop between cell towers with like IMEIs.
Right.
And if you saw somebody moving, if you saw a set of phones moving between cell towers in the same basic pattern, you could make an assumption that they were together, especially if you see this multiple times.
Sure.
And so you know there was a known traveler. So what they would do is if they had a suspected IMEI number, so an IMEI of someone that they wanted to look at, anybody that traveled with them, they could figure out, oh, this person's always with them. We should go probably watch them as well.
Right.
And it is unclear if they should have been allowed to do that or not, right? Because that information is available from the networks, from the phone carriers, but they would do that without a warrant, right? They would pull that information with no warrant.
Sure.
Because their point was there's nothing private about it. It's like, well, it's not entirely true. This Stingray is doing that by broadcasting that it is a cell site.
Posing as a cell tower.
Yeah. Even though it's not providing any real cell services to negotiate with you and extract your IMEI. And that's really all that it's doing, which is somewhat fascinating to me that they're allowed to do this. Like, I don't know that they need to have FCC approval, but usually anything that broadcasts or receives needs FCC approval in the US. For law enforcement, I don't know, maybe they get a different set of rules they can play by. Yeah. I'm pretty sure all the radios are still registered with the FCC, but I'm not entirely sure.
Is that true of military radio? Do they need FCC clearance or can they just have anything?
I don't know. I would assume there it's probably not, but that is a really good question.
Like the police, probably most of their radios comply with FCC regulations.
Police radios typically require FCC licenses.
Typically. It's doing a lot of work there.
Yeah.
I don't think most people realize when they're carrying their cell phone, they're carrying a device that uniquely identifies them.
I hope most people realize that. Unfortunately, I think you're probably right.
You would hope, but I don't think that's true.
Yeah, that's why, I always like when folks are like, oh, I would never use that, whatever that piece of technology. They won't use a credit card because they don't want people to know where they are. I don't want the man to know where I am. And I'm like, see that phone in your hand? It's doing way more work than that credit card.
Right. The man knows exactly where you are at all times.
Totally.
Canada drops tech tax to resume trade talks. Canada's abandoned its 3% digital services tax, targeting U.S. tech giants like Meta and Google. This move comes after President Trump threatened to halt trade talks. Scrapping the trade tax, which would have retroactively applied to 2022, aims to secure a new economic deal with the U.S. despite existing tariffs on Canadian goods.
Yeah, this is interesting. I didn't even really know this thing was on the books. So apparently it's been active since 2022. They just haven't collected it. And they were supposed to collect it, I think, next month, but then said, well, you know what? Actually, we're probably going to repeal this thing. So
sure.
I don't know. I mean, who does that? What tax service do you know that sits around for 2 years before they go collect? Like maybe they just wanted it as a
bargaining chip.
Yeah, a little bargaining chip to have. I don't know.
Of course.
It feels interesting. Maybe this is their way of being grumpy that Meta and Google don't lobby enough in Canada.
Sure, of course. I mean, it's completely reasonable that they would have a tax for something that is occurring on their shores. That's not unfair. However, the way they gave in on this made me think maybe this wasn't really even something they cared about.
Seems like they caved a little easy. Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Yeah. I don't know. They made a big deal, like it was a huge deal, and then magically the whole thing went away. So really, did you care that much about it?
Yeah, I didn't even fully understand the context of how it was levied and what it was levied on. Like, I think it was just a percentage of revenue, of like total revenue. Because like, well,
yeah, I have no idea.
We don't know how else to make money on you, so we're just going to charge you for all of your revenue. It seems very odd. It does seem very odd they've pulled this off. or pull this off the rolls.
Beyond publishing posts, Meta seeks access to your private unpublished photos. Meta is seeking access to users' camera rolls for cloud processing to power AI features. Though they deny current AI training on private photos, their terms permit analysis and retention of data, raising significant privacy concerns. This opt-in feature echoes Meta's history of extensive data scraping and will likely lead to the expansion of your social graph.
Well, I mean, duh. Right? This is what they've always done.
That's what they do.
Normally, I would say, look, they didn't carve these things out, but they didn't say they're explicitly doing them. So you're probably okay. Like the product itself that they're offering to the consumer looks mildly interesting, right? So it's designed to go through your camera roll and identify things like maybe
specifically photos on your phone that you haven't uploaded publicly to Facebook.
Yeah, just the whole roll to go through the things you haven't shared with the platform to say, oh, this is interesting. This is your anniversary, or you were with these people at this birthday party, right? Like,
sure.
Okay, I could see some value in that. Where I think it gets a little dicey is there's they talk about things very sort of loosey-goosey, where the analysis of these photos, they're going to retain the data.
Sure.
Okay, I understand that. You need to retain the data somewhere so you can figure out how to make decisions. But that's it. They don't tell you anything more. Not we're going to use it for these purposes or not these purposes, just that we're going to retain it. And that's it.
And they refuse to clarify that stance as well.
Yeah, not only they refuse to clarify, but also they haven't exactly had a history of being very forthcoming about what they use and what they don't use, right? So you're like, oh, yeah, this probably isn't great. This probably isn't the thing that you want. I will say, just to give them one small prop, they are at least making it opt-in.
Which is good.
Which seems nice, because I feel like in the past, it would just be on by default. And you'd be 12 layers deep to figure out how to opt out.
But so many people are going to opt in thinking, oh, how lovely. I'll get these wonderful things on my birthday. What are these montages, these collages?
Yes.
And never thinking about, oh, they're going through my photo roll. They're going to know everywhere I've been, all the locations where I've taken photos. They're going to know everybody who's in the background of all my photos with their AI.
Yes.
They will facially ID everyone. The people who didn't even consent to be tracked by Facebook will be tracked because they appear in your photos.
Yes. But that's the beauty of it, right? Because you're paying nothing for the product, then that you are the product.
Yeah, I don't want to be the product. I have no Facebook products on my phone.
Oh, you will. Wait till you turn 70.
I have no intention.
It's like the new ARP card. They just send you a Facebook login. No, they just send, trust me, you'll want it. You'll be there. You'll be like, oh, look at that. Oh.
No X on my phone. I don't want anything to do with any of it.
Sure. You don't want to have a bunch of that sitting in a database somewhere. I can appreciate that.
Sure.
That's why you should just print like little cardboard cutouts to throw off their little facial tech. And you just take
their
like cardboard.
AI?
Yeah. Just throw off their AI. And you can just be like, oh, here.
Have yourself in 30 or 40 locations around the world all at the same time.
Here I am with Abraham Lincoln again. Like, here with Elvis. It's me, Elvis, and Abraham Lincoln just having lunch. Just throw it off as best you can.
I like that.
This is why, I've said this before. When they started the shopper reward programs, right? Those little, you get a little card at Ralph's and it would get you your coupon, your 12% off.
Affinity programs.
Yeah, the little affinity programs they would do tied to your coupon usage. For the longest time, I would just trade with the person behind me in line. I just be like, you want to trade?
Oh, sure.
And you just keep doing that. Just like, I'm representing somebody, but it's not the same person always. It's always some different card, different thing. Why not? Just keep rotating it around.
Trump's phones made in the USA claim disappears. The Trump Mobile T1 phone 8002, initially touted as made in the USA, has removed all such claims from its website, now stating proudly American with vague patriotic language. The phone's listed specifications, screen size, RAM, and shipping timeline have also changed, suggesting a potential supplier switch and raising doubts about the product.
Okay, well, first of all, that is inaccurate. No doubts have been raised. My doubts were already as high as they could get when they announced this. I don't think anything got higher, at least not for me. Maybe for someone else somewhere. Also, saying that because the specs have changed is suggesting a potential supplier switch, I also think is inaccurate because I don't think they ever had a supplier to begin with. So switching...
It was a fictional product to begin with.
Exactly. Yes. It was just makeup. It was just make-believe, right?
Yeah.
Like, the only thing I'm curious to is which of the LLMs gave them the best version of this phone? Like, was this an Anthropic product push? Was this a OpenAI product push? I'm not sure. But I'm not surprised, right? This had, to be clear, for those of us that haven't been paying attention for the past 2 weeks, when they launched this product, the banner on the homepage said that the T1s would be made in the USA in all uppercase.
Right.
So it wasn't like it was like buried in some footnote somewhere. This was one of the main selling points. And of course, that is not the case. But the effect has likely already been made, right? It's already been planted in a bunch of people's brains that this the Magic T1 will be made right here in the US of A.
The new tagline is premium performance, proudly American.
Yes, of course.
Designed with American values in mind, and American hands are behind every device.
I don't, what does that mean?
It means nothing.
I feel like it's a puppet show. It means nothing, right? It's just, there's nothing of substance in that.
That means we tried to make a phone in America and quickly found out that's impossible.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing worse than you spending 5 minutes trying to figure this out is not knowing it before you spend 5 minutes trying to figure this thing out. Like, where are you going to go? What are you going to go to the Carrier air conditioning compressor plant, try to get them to make phones?
Sure.
Like, no, there's no way. It's not going to happen. Even assembly's hard enough.
Yeah.
Let alone making the whole thing.
It'd make the phone a whole lot more expensive. There are individual parts you literally just could not make.
At best, these things are going to be laid in a tray somewhere offshore, brought in on a tray, and shoved in a box. That is at best what I see happening here. And even that, I think, is a stretch. Nothing more.
I think you're going to get some boxes that come on a pallet that then get resorted and put on another pallet.
Sure.
We're going to say those American hands move them from this pallet to that pallet.
You're even less optimistic than me. I'm saying they'll at least take it out of the tray and put it in a box. You're saying no. Box comes off pallet 1 and goes on to pallet 2. Understood. But the wood in that pallet is from Canada, so that makes it closer to home. That's really.
But only if they drop that big tax.
Otherwise, you're using that good Chinese wood for sure. For sure.
Okay, enough of the headlines. In fact, enough of the episode. We have to get out of here. Special thanks to our floor director, Tony Von Pervier.
Thanks, TVP.
We'll be back later this week with our big story, Ghost in the Sky, how the B-2 redefined air power. Until then, thank you for listening to all this nonsense. I'm Jeff Parker.
I'm Steve Little.
Matane.
The Japanese.
Japanese for bye-bye.
Great, now I'm hungry again.
Why does Japanese make you hungry?
Have you not been?
I've been.
And were you not hungry?
The food in the 7-Eleven is the best food you've ever tasted.
I know, isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy?
Crazy how good the food is.
I don't understand. If you like free software as much as me, Jeff, you're going to love the Compu-Brush.
Okay.
It's an electronic paintbrush program which allows you to capture any graphic screen of another program to enhance its presentation with a variety of colors, text styles, and fonts.
So some sort of screen grabber.
Because if you're from the future, you could call it a screen grabber. You can create your own library of frequently used graphics and save it with the small command using 50 to 90% less disk storage space.
Wow, so like compression.
Yes, also from the future.
Okay.
Additionally, you may develop a computerized, quote, slide presentation for a professional and effective demonstration.
So like a PowerPoint presentation I can make.
A free Compu-Brush program will be included when you purchase an American computer system or the American mouse.
Oh my, the American mouse.
Look for specialty marked packages of American systems and American hardware products and create winning graphics with your free Compu-Brush. Available today only from American Computer and Peripheral Incorporated in Santa Ana, California.
Fantastic. Let's do that.
This was completely novel. So based on those hints, when do you think this was?
You have not rewritten this, right?
I have not rewritten this, no.
American Computer and Peripheral was a real company. You're not making up that name.
That was the name of the company in Santa Ana, California, yes.
Okay. They aren't saying the word compression. I think that's really telling.
Nope.
They aren't saying like JPEG or GIF or anything like that.
BMP and RLE, my friend. I don't even know if you're at RLE yet. I think you're just at BMP.
So I think that kind of puts us really early. You got to be in the 80s at that point. They do not mention the words PowerPoint, which would be the slide presentation. And PowerPoint came around in 87. I'm going to guess probably this was around 85.
You were extremely close. This came out of the January 1987 edition of Computer Shopper. So
there you go.
Really, you're probably talking 85, 86.
That's amazing.
Isn't that incredible? I love that screen grabbing was novel.
Sure. Now every operating system makes that simple.
Of course. Here's what's so funny. This ad that I found on Computer Shopper, I literally screen grabbed to then OCR the text so that we could read it.
Of course you did.
So talk about some sort of weird, whatever, repetitive, cyclic, ironic thing. Anyway, January 1987. Very good.